Hello all, it's James Johnson, aka Sulphur Blade. Welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my content, and welcome back to Heads Will Roll Reforged. So this is what, Season 2? We've just recaptured London. We are on the side of the Earl and the Prince, and I believe we're going to be heading towards Windsor next. Now that we are at the beginning of a chapter once again, I do like to try to get a little bit of training in, but as you progress further and further into the game really doesn't give you much chance to get any training in. So yeah, it's a tough thing to attempt to pull off, but we're going to attempt to do it anyway. Really, I want to get agility a little higher if possible. I want to drive it up using coordination. So let's see what we can do. A messenger brings you urgent news from the Earl. Rebels have made move towards Windsor, a small town near the capital. Northampton wants you to head there right away and prevent Canterbury's men from capturing the town. New quest added. Once upon a time in Windsor. A messenger brings you an order from the Earl. You are to report to him immediately. How do you like the royal residence, James? Impressed yet? Beats the tents under the walls of Cambrai, doesn't it? It surely does. The last few days have been remarkably calm. We've all finally been able to catch our breath a little, but now it's time to get back to work. First, the bad news. Before retreating, Canterbury not only emptied what remained of the treasury, but also made off with the royal regalia, traditionally used for coronation ceremonies. By doing so, he's postponed my official ascension of the throne. So what do we do now? What are we going to do now? We weren't the only ones who's got a respite, so did Canterbury. One can say that at the Battle of London he practically gifted us the victory by deploying an untrained mob instead of a proper army. He won't be giving us any more of those gifts. Our spies report that Oxford and its surroundings are packed with military encampments. New recruits are being trained around the clock. We also know for certainty that at least one ship from the continent came to reinforce him. Who was on board is unknown, but most likely mercenaries, or some of his men who got left behind. Or them, yes. In any case, we should prepare for the worst. As for you, James, a diplomatic mission awaits you this time. We need allies. There isn't any more left to the south of the Thames. All the lords of those realms are already fighting either on our side or on the rebels. But north of the capital, numerous counts, barons, and dukes retain significant military strength, but have yet to take a side in this war. I believe their decision will determine the outcome of this conflict. Exactly. We'll be sending regular couriers to these lords, but 3 are particularly important. You will personally deliver the letters to them, both as my official representative and a man I truly rely on. You'll be responsible for these letters, James. Understood. So, who does this mysterious trio consist of? 3 former associates of my father who once helped him to ascend the throne. But over time, their friendship with the king degraded, to the point they were no longer allies, no longer friends. And what was the reason for that? They had different views on various important issues. Northampton and the Prince exchange meaningful glances. After a short pause, the Earl takes word. He speaks methodically, carefully choosing his words. I do not think that this information is necessary for you, James. The less you know, the better you sleep. But sire, no buts. Rest assured that you've been told everything you need to know. Come visit me when you're ready to set up. For now, take a quick rest and get yourself in good condition. You have a couple of very long journeys ahead of you. New quest added. Hellish Trio. Alright. I'm still going to try to get a couple of trainings in. I might go straight for agility since it's what I want trained. And then just train strength after. Let's get a little bit of more endurance in here. One more endurance. Nicholas the Burnt left the squad. Wait, what? Who the hell is Nicholas the Burnt? The guy who was a knight. So I wasted money on him. You waste too much time allowing the rebels not only seize Windsor, but also establish a significant foothold there. Fuck you, game. This game... Just give me a few opportunities to do something each chapter, please. Reputation with the Earl lowered by 30, reputation with soldiers lowered by 10, virtue lowered by 25, prestige lowered by 1. I was about to head off. Following a stern reprimand from Northampton, you approach Windsor with loyalist main forces, only to find it transformed from a tranquil town into a well-defended citadel. It quickly becomes evident that it is only to be a tough nut to crack. While the soldiers are busy setting up a field camp, Northampton gathers a war council. Alright, gentlemen, let's be clear. It looks like we're knee-deep in shite. Those scoundrels have captured an important town right under our nose and are setting up defensive positions capable of withstanding a prolonged siege. Any minute that we waste is a minute the enemy spends fortifying their defenses. I wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow morning we'll wake up to that place looking like a veritable fortress. And the day after, it may very well get to the point where we'll be needing trebuchets and battering rams to even have a chance of successful assault, so there's no time to waste. Those of you who have been under the walls of the Cambria know perfectly well that one bad siege can easily cost you the whole campaign. Guess who else knows that? Canterbury. He's been here, and it looks like he's trying to recreate this scenario, except this time with him playing the part of the French. Thus, we'll have to be absolutely ruthless. James, let's be honest, you've dropped the ball on this one, so you'll have to do the heavy lifting this time. You're no rookie. After Cambrai, Dartford, and London, you should have a pretty good understanding of how to wage a war. Yes, and part of that waging the war means I need more fucking agility, you son of a bitch. Let me get my training in. You'll be responsible for taking Windsor back. I won't fail you, sire. With all the men that we have, I'll capture the town tomorrow morning. A faint laughter ripples through the gathering. I like the attitude, James, but I don't intend on risking our main force for this kind of battle. Perhaps you're right that you can capture the town in one assault with a full army under your command, but what if you fail? I'm too old to take such a gamble. I've besieged and captured more towns and castles than you can count, James. Here's what I'll tell you. There are only two ways to capture a fortified city. The first one is through attrition, and the second one is by throwing bodies at it. A lot of bodies. I've already told you that we don't really have time for lengthy siege, so that rules out the first option. Doesn't that mean that we'll have to risk our men either way? We will all have to, yes, but not the good ones. At least not those sitting around you right now. Knights don't climb town walls with siege ladders, James. That's not the most chivalrous thing. You've been under Cambrai as an infantryman, haven't you? So you should know who usually leads the charge in these kinds of situations. Militiamen. You're goddamn right. Peasants. Thomas Marshall and his troops will take up position to the north and northwest of Windsor, aiming to hinder the rebel forces and disrupt supply lines wherever feasible, and you, James, will gather the men and attack the town again and again until it's ours. I know that you're the type who enjoys inspiring others with acts of bravado, but this time allow someone else to take the role of the hero. It's about time you learned how to do that. New quest added. Case Windsor. As for me, I'm going back to London. The siege of Windsor will consume a lot of time and effort. Bashing your head against the town wall, in an attempt to capture it yourself might not be the smartest idea. The lords, as well as various other characters, might offer you some help. It would be wise to search for assistance wherever you can. Having the Sword of Justice in your possession allows you to attract additional forces to your side. A war band of 30 warriors arrive at Windsor. I already heard the news, but congratulations on your new appointment. I can tell by the look in your face that you're not excited about it. But what can you do? You'll have to make it work somehow. Here's the deal. There's really no shortage of peasants eager to go to war for a handful of florins, or even the promise of a regular meal and a pint of ale. A steady supply of men is something I can guarantee you. But when it comes to their gear, we've got serious issues. Royal arsenals have been almost stripped clean during preparation for the campaign in France, and what little remained was appropriated by Canterbury to outfit his own forces. Now we have no reserves we can depend on. We'll basically have to start from scratch, either by purchasing goods from local merchants or plundering from enemies, or by some other means. I don't know. In any case, I'll get you the men, but arming them is your headache. Loss is understandable. Don't expect any heroes. I just need a cheap peasant. Right? Yes. Noggy Oliver here. He's got a shield, right? Yes, good. That's all I want. Okay, what was the other thing the sergeant was talking about? Militiamen? Hand over equipment. What equipment are you wanting? Here's a Morning Star. Here's a flanged mace. The hunting sword. Knight's bracer. Militiamen total. New militiamen armed 1. Militiamen total 31. Fresh reinforcements are heading to Windsor. Alright, I didn't even know that mechanic existed. I've got a Swordmaster's ring here. Personal battle standard. Thought I gave that away. Squad. Yeah, Phil. Trinkets. Did I want Phil to have this? Yeah, I believed I do. Okay, that's gonna up his vitality quite a bit. It took 3 from weapon skill, but 30 is still plenty. And right, I didn't want to take away his crossbow reloading tool. If we still had the knight, I could have given him that, but oh well. Yeah, let's go get on the road before somebody else gets annoyed. Whoops. That's not what I meant to do. Travel. Strategy has been proposed by suggest multiple attacks that thrown by allies, forces cut off, da-da-da-da. There are 2 ways to assault Windsor. You can either attack the city together with your squad, personally leading the charge and subjecting yourself to risk, or gather a militia and order it to assault the cities while you stay in safety. In order to gather a militia, talk to the sergeant. Some other influential characters might also offer you their help under fitting circumstances. Even though the siege won't last forever and your time to capture the city is limited, brute forcing your way in might not be the best idea, especially if you're having a hard time doing it. Look for allies and remember that sometimes it's better to lose gold than blood. Congratulations on another victory, my hero. The news of the rebels' defeat inflicted by you under London has already reached me, but I would be very happy to hear a detailed retelling of this story from your lips. 1 second, I'll have the servants bring the best wine from the cellar. A triumph of 6 magnitude should be celebrated with something special. Thanks for the congratulations, Alicia, but it might be better to hold off on a little of the wine. Canterbury has been routed and the capital is now in our hands, but the definitive victory is still a long way off. Oh, is that so? And here I was told that Canterbury had allegedly died in battle and that all his rebels had dropped their weapons and scattered in the surrounding woods. So these rumors are, as usual, somewhat exaggerated and not even somewhat. As I said, we did manage to take advantage of the Count's troops' disorganization and inflict a defeat, forcing him to abandon the capital. However, the rebels are still very far from being completely defeated. To our knowledge, Canterbury has withdrawn to Oxford and is now once again assembling forces there from his vast reserves. Northampton says seizing London has been extremely fortunate for us and that the Count will not make us a second such gift, so we all have challenging times ahead. So that's how it is. You know, I might appear overly materialistic in your eyes, but maybe this outcome of events isn't all that bad for us. Oh, really? Well, why not? Thanks to the war, you become a knight, met me, and sat at the same table with the Crown Prince himself, soon to be king. War is a time of opportunity, especially for people like you. And now, you'll have me on your side as well. And as we have already seen from the story of the sheriff and his crony Duncan, your sword and my smarts are a formidable combination. So now, we'll be able to not just take advantage of the opportunities, but squeeze the absolute maximum out of them. Sounds extremely promising, especially if you don't think about the fact that war is also a possibility of being impaled with a spear or a sword at any moment. Pfft, nonsense. Scars adorn a man, James. And so do titles, lands, and gold. And while you're already doing great with the former, the rest can obviously still be worked on. But don't worry, I'll take care of it. If we're indeed in the middle of splitting a big pie called the Kingdom of England, why shouldn't we take a good bite out of it ourselves? I don't know what's on your mind, but I think we should be wary. Trying to outsmart the crooked sheriff is one thing. Getting involved in the intrigue surrounding the royal throne is quite another. The war has indeed provided me with many opportunities, but I've been able to not miss out on them by following one simple principle. Do what I'm told, and mind my own business. I don't think it would be wise to conspire behind the backs of such people as the Earl and the Prince. God, you're such a bore. I can't even daydream with you around. You can relax. I'm not going to drag you into anything, after all. Your health and well-being are also in my best interest. So, I'll just stick to the helpful advice. It's up to you whether you follow it or not. Okay, what was the point with all that? Talk to Northampton and find out more about your mission. You find Northampton caught up in his thoughts. On a table in front of him, alongside the customary fine wine, lies a spread of fortune-telling cards. After another long sip, he notices your arrival. Ready to talk about your assignment, James? Well, here's the deal. I'll be honest with you. We don't have much chance of beating Canterbury in pitched battle. We lack strength, and one who lacks strength has to search for allies. This is the only way to tip the scale in our favor, or at the very least balance it. Where do I have to go? The first gentleman you have to pay or visit is John Mortimer, the Marquis of Radcliffe. He was exiled, or should I say relocated, to Chippenham Castle a few years ago. Radcliffe has men, few but very experienced. Many of them are veterans of past campaigns in Wales and Scotland, well armed, plus the Marquis himself is a seasoned warrior. He was supposed to sail with us to France, but at the last moment the king had a change of heart and chose not to call him to arms. Could get over the old grievances. He'd make a valuable ally if he can let go of his grudge, that is. May I know what exactly happened between him and the king? After all, I have to... James? Don't. Just don't. Now on to the next one. The second gentleman you must deliver the letter to is Edmund Hastings, the Baron of Colchester, master of Castle Hadley. Unsurprisingly, his relationship with the royal family is rather complicated too. Who would have thought? Stop being such a smartass. Or our relationship might become complicated too. My bad, sire. Alright, so I was saying, Colchester was supposed to go with us to France, but as the king began preparing for the expedition, a plague broke out in the Baron's domain. He asked the king for aid, and received it he did. However, due to the military preparations, the aid was not as substantial as the Baron had hoped for, which led to a misunderstanding between him and the crown. It's been over a year, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if this conflict has been resolved. And who's our third potential ally? Henry Stafford, the Duke of Cambridge, the most powerful of the trio. Whether he sides with us or with Canterbury could be the primary factor, influencing the outcome of the war. Honestly, I expect him to have flocked under Canterbury's banner by now, but for some reason, this does not happen, which means we could still turn him into an ally. Let me guess, he also has a grudge against the old king. He might, to a lesser extent. It's me he's got a bone to pick with. You can already guess what the answer will be, but curiosity makes you ask anyway. Can I ask why? Why do you think, James? Because of land, of course. It's always because of land. That scoundrel had been eyeing the land to the east of my family manor, Bedford's, Huntington, Stamford. Not the worst places, as you might know. Before they became mine, they were quite the source of contention. It got so bad that the king himself had to intervene. Henry expected the king to support his claim, thought that his service and loyalty to the crown would finally pay off, but the king thought differently. There's indeed one blemish on Henry's service to the crown. He smuggled French alcohol into the kingdom through Scotland without paying any taxes. The crown did not receive a dime, while the Duke got fat on profits. During the Scottish campaign, I personally put an end to that little business venture of his. This endeared me to the king. Long story short, this is all rather complicated. I'll just say that since then, the Duke of Cambridge has not been on the best of terms with either the royal family or me. This is just great. Cheer up, James. These are honorable people. No matter how complicated their relations with the crown may be, They won't be greeting you with volleys of crossbow bolts. I wouldn't be surprised if many of these old grudges have already been long forgotten. You've got nothing to worry about. Probably. Somehow, I find that hard to believe, sire. The more likely option is that you will shut up and listen to me. This is the most likely option. So, what was I saying? Yes. Here's one more thing. How does that poem go? Down to Gehenna or up to the throne, he travels the fastest who travels alone. The capital and its surroundings are crawling with Canterbury's spies. It's better to go alone so you can slip past them unnoticed. And remember, success or failure of this mission might just decide the fate of the whole war. I thought the outcome of the war is decided on the battlefield. Major battles are always a coin toss. The will of Providence. Canterbury understands this very well, and therefore is in no hurry. Our attack near London was, to an extent, a desperation move that caught him off guard. We played our cards well, got very lucky, but ultimately the balance of power hardly shifted. Canterbury will still possess vastly superior resources, and thus our best bet is to recruit powerful allies, nullifying any further advantage he may hold over us. Then, once we're on equal footing, we force him to negotiate. Really, is he supposed to just throw away all his plans and make peace with us? Don't worry about that part, James. I've already got a plan. Yes, of course you've got a plan. Alright. So, off to Chippenham we go, I believe. Why is Greenwich still lit up here? You tell us about the diplomatic missions entrusted to you by Northampton, Hadley, Chippenham, Cambridge, then, with the right to conduct negotiations on behalf of the Crown Prince himself. Interesting. You consider each of these assignments separately, it might seem like they're entrusted solely with courier work, but if you put them all together, then it will turn out that you are none other than the chief diplomat in the entire kingdom, and your actions and decisions will shape the alliance that will resolve the outcome of this war. It would be a sin not to take advantage of such an opportunity. All that's left is to figure out how it can be done. What's on your mind? Nothing specific yet. As you well know, my own home was under siege by brigands and bandits until recently, so I didn't care much about the rest of the kingdom. And I'm going to need some time to get more familiar with the global balance of power and the state of affairs. But don't worry, I'll handle this whole part. Just please keep me informed. And don't forget that Greenwich Arsenal is always available to you. Thank you. Also, I rarely mention it, but that doesn't mean I don't think about it. Be careful. And I'm asking you as my future husband. Greenwich Arsenal is available to me, huh? Then why didn't you send me there? Hello, it's good to see you again. Visit the Greenwich Arsenal. It's empty. Well, thanks. Ask for help in gathering soldiers. Alyssa, I need some help assembling the troops. Once again, I realize how lucky you are to have met me because I haven't been sitting idle all this time. Now that the peasant uprising is over and the rebels have been driven away from London, Greenwich is far away from all the fighting, so I've been able to set up some operations here. Well, I suspect you'd need more men and in large numbers, so I started forming the Greenwich Militia. Sounds quite belligerent. You bet. I wouldn't count on any countless horde of warriors, of course, but I certainly could materialize a few dozen or maybe even 100 fighters. Let me guess, you've got the manpower and all you're missing is the equipment. I'm afraid I can't help you with that much. Northampton has already entrusted me with arming the militiamen for the siege of Windsor, so all the weapons are already in great demand. You've guessed wrong. I'm aware that there's a shortage of equipment in the south of the kingdom due to the war, but Greenwich is not some dump. We have our own blacksmiths who can outfit and arm a small force. It won't be easy, but we'll manage. All I need from you is to provide me with a couple or 3 experienced soldiers from among your men who could teach the local bumpkins at least the elementary basics of the art of warfare. It is not that I care that much about their fate, but since I'm already investing money in them and our own lives are at stake in the current war, it's better to teach these fools at least something before throwing them into battle. Understood. I'll find suitable candidates and send them over to you. New quest added, Greenwich Militia. I really don't want to give up my trained men for this version. So they have to survive three battles, and these two have done so. These have not. I think. Yeah, let's head to Chippenham. The residence of the Marquis of Radcliffe, Chippenham Castle, is located far west of the capital, bordering the Welsh wilderness. Not only have you never been to these places, but you also don't even know anything about them except perhaps for the fact that these lands are rather poor and surrounded by total wilderness. Reflecting on Northampton's unwillingness to share any information about Radcliffe and this isolated place of abode, you grow more convinced that it's improbable that Marquis willingly selected Chippenham as his residence. The journey goes quickly. While you are absorbed in thought, you find yourself on the outskirts of Chippenham before long. As you catch sight of the silhouette of the small castle on the horizon, a league away, you happily note that your trip has been surprisingly calm and uneventful. That's when you realize that you haven't encountered a single patrol or outpost in the lands of the Marquis of Radcliffe. At that moment, as if on cue, several bandit-type characters jump out in the thick grove to the left and the right of the road, blocking your horse and pressing their spears up against your throat. Easy there, buddy. Don't panic. My name is Jones. You can trust me. Me and my business associates keep law and order in these lands, and to tell you the truth, we don't take kindly to strangers. So tell me, who are you, and what the hell are you doing here? My name is James, and I'm a knight in the service of the Earl of Northampton. And I am to head to the court of Marquis of Radcliffe on behalf of Prince Edward, son of the late king and the rightful heir to the throne. Well, easy there, lad. Knights, princes, earls, and marquises. I didn't desert from the royal army to tremble at the mere mention of hefty titles and big names. You might be the long-lost grandson of the Pope himself for all I care. That still ain't gonna impress me. As for the purpose of your visit, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. The Marquis of Radcliffe, to the great regret of all those present, and myself personally, has left us. He has departed for a better world. Now, there are no marquises here, so this land belongs to the free people of Chippenham, and their leader, Duncan, the Prince of Thieves. Huh? But wasn't he executed at Greenwich just a couple of weeks ago? I saw him burn at the stake with my own eyes. He gets caught and executed somewhere almost every week, old man. Radcliffe caught him at least 3 times, hanged him twice, and quartered him once. Duncan personally severed one of the Marquis's limbs for each of those 3. Do I need to specify which one of them is now lying in a grave? The Marquis, I suppose. You guessed it. He's a dangerous person, that Duncan. He's the one who's now calling the shots around here, so show some respect when you mention his name. Well, I want to meet with Duncan. If Duncan is indeed the new master of Chippenham, then I would like to meet him. There's a business proposition I'd like to make him. A business proposition, you say? It sounds very captivating. Sounds like there might be money involved, and when money is involved, a certain question appears. What's in it for us? These are troubled times we live in, you see. Roads aren't safe. One can easily run into a gang of scoundrels and never make it to wherever they're going. Things like that do happen. Yes, precisely. This is why my comrades and I would be happy to escort you to Chippenham and introduce you to Duncan. Make sure you get there safe and sound. But any work must be paid. How about, let's say, 250 florins? Try to haggle. For that kind of money, you'd have to carry me to Chippenham on your arms. Very gently, I might add. Don't you think it's a bit too much? You are in no position to bargain, knight. Either you pay us 250 florins and visit Duncan and Chippenham, or you don't pay us a single dime. But then, it's the old Marquis whom you'll be visiting, and there's no coming back from that journey. Taking advantage of the circumstances, huh? Take what you can, give nothing back. Oh, screw you. Deal. Alright, 250 florins lost. Upon receiving the money, Jones and his men escort you to Chippenham. Chippenham Castle, despite its status as the official residence of the Marquis, turns out to be relatively small, unassuming, smaller than even Dartford. Arriving closer, you get an opportunity to take a better look at the place. There seems to be nothing interesting to look at. An ordinary rural life is going on the pre-castle territory, made of about a dozen houses. The peasants going about their business are observed from the castle walls by the crossbowmen, and some lord's banner is flying above the keep. Accompanied by Jones, you cross a lowered suspension bridge, past the guards, and enter the main hall. The new master of Chippenham greets you in the throne room, seated at the head of a massive table, on a throne that evidently was occupied by the Marquis not long ago. Anticipation at an encounter with the highway bandits, you're rather taken aback to find yourself face to face with a well-groomed man clad in silks and brocades. Complementing his appearance are an impressive gold chain around his neck and an array of rings boasting various gemstones on his fingers. Had it not been for Jones warning you, you might have mistaken him for the real Marquis of Redcliffe. This strange sensation intensifies when the man introduces himself as Marquis Duncan of Chippenham and makes it clear that he expects you to address him as such. After introducing yourself, you briefly state the purpose of your visit and invite the Marquis to support Prince Edward in his struggle against the rebels. As you speak, a procession of servants shuttles back and forth to Duncan, offering him wine, fanning him, and intermittently bringing him notes and whispering secrets in his ear. Duncan appears disinterested throughout your speech, but he surprises you with a question as soon as you finish. Exactly the same one that Jones asked an hour ago. What will I get out of this? Assuming that Duncan wants money, you promise the Marquis a hefty sum of florins. To your astonishment, he shakes his head. Duncan claims he's ready to support Prince Edward, but only for a reciprocal favor. Duncan needs a promise from Edward that upon ascending to the throne, he will pardon all of his associates on behalf of the crown and formally confer upon him the title of Marquis, ensuring the position will be passed on to his descendants. I suppose these demands are acceptable. Striking a deal with the glorified bandit evokes disgust. Virtue lowered by 50. Oh, son of a... Well, there goes all my men. Despite coming home from a glorified bandit, the request itself seems reasonable. You accept Duncan's offer on behalf of the prince. Marquis Duncan of Chippenham, for his part, promises to assist you in war against the rebels. Back in London, you provide Northampton and the prince with a report on the journey of Chippenham. Neither of them is thrilled about the idea of dealing with Duncan, but both agree your decision, acknowledging that now is not the time to be picky about allies. Marquis Duncan of Chippenham agrees to support you in the war. You can recruit men in Chippenham. Reputation increased by 15. EXP completed by 20. You know what? I'm going straight to Greenwich. Okay, with each word you say, her face darkens, her eyes become increasingly bloodshot. Bloody bastard. I can't believe it. So not only is he alive, although I saw him burn at the stake with my own eyes, but he also managed to take over Chippenham and become the Marquis there? Unbelievable. I shall not let this stand. We shall not let this stand. Despite his past, Duncan is now effectively a full-fledged Marquis, and both the Earl and Prince see him as a valuable ally in the war against Canterbury. And showdowns between allies during the war are a bad idea. Are you serious? This man tried to kill me and my family, as well as loot and burn my homes. After miraculously escaping justice at Greenwich, he proceeded to perpetrate atrocities on Chippenham and took the life of the Marquis there, appropriating his castle and landed title. Devil only knows what else he has on his mind and where he'll turn his murderous gaze. And there's certainly no guarantee that his men won't appear here again one day with weapons in their hands. Yet you're suggesting we just forget everything he's done? I won't feel at peace as long as I know Duncan is still alive. I understand you, but is there anything we can do now? I know how you feel, but the circumstances are not on our side right now. Calling Duncan to account would mean declaring war on our own allies. Everyone in Oxford would be jumping for joy. You underestimate me, James. I'm not a fool to demand that you sabotage the campaign against Canterbury with another war on the home front. Instead, I propose to deal with Duncan in one precise strike, and if all goes well, to replace him with someone more favorable. Favorable for us. As far as I can tell from your story, Northampton and Prince Edward are in no position to be picky about allies. They need soldiers for war, and as long as Chippen supplies them with these soldiers, they won't care much about who's running the place. So in the end, if we pull it off carefully, we can settle scores with Duncan, put our own men in the Marquis's chair, and at the same time avoid incurring the Prince's wrath. You are a master of sweet talk, Alyssa. In theory, your plan does look quite feasible, but I'm afraid it all going to be much more complicated in practice. How exactly are we supposed to deliver a precise strike to someone hiding behind the walls of the guarded castle? Where do we find our own man whom we can make the new Marquis? All this sounds like a large venture. Hey, cheer up. Those not taking risks get no burgundy for their fair wives to drink. You're not blind, James, and should be able to see it all for yourself. Northampton and Edward are spinning like a weather vane in the wind. Yesterday they needed my father's favor, so you were assigned to run around. Today Duncan became important to them, so all his yesterday's transgressions, including those committed against me and my father, were immediately forgotten. The same will happen to you. You get the bare minimum crumbs from their table, and even that is only because they need your sword now. As soon as Canterbury is defeated, the young prince is comfortably settled on the throne. You will be forgotten and discarded like an old useless toy. Your cunning and courage helped them drive the rebels from London, and what did that get you in return? The right to your own banner and a handful of coins, and won't even get you a set of good armor. You're a great soldier, James, but if you don't want to be someone's errand boy for the rest of life, you need to start thinking with your head. I won't let them exploit you for a pittance. Now, regarding Duncan, the late Marquis of Chippenham had a quite extensive family with dozens of close and distant relatives scattered throughout the south of the kingdom. The Marquis was not known for his generosity, so many of his kin are likely to lead quite poor lives. All we need to do is find one of them, preferably someone not too adequate, and make him an offer he can't refuse. And then, once Duncan has been dealt with, declare him the rightful heir to the Marquis, restoring the deposed dynasty on its rightful domain. The new Marquis, ideally some drunkard, second uncle. The late one will keep drinking quietly, but in his own apartment and surrounded by servants. The actual governments of Chippenham will be handled by us through one of my men assigned to the new Marquis. And after the end of the war, in a year or two, our new Marquis may well suddenly die of an exacerbation of some disease after leaving behind a will, of course. Anyway, don't worry about it. I'll think it all through. You've got solely military matters at hand. Devise a plan to infiltrate Duncan's residence without a long siege and begin preparations. Let me know when everything's ready. I'll take care of the rest. New quest added, overthrow. Alright, hello, it's good to see you. Here's Phil. Here's Henrik. Why am I ditching these guys now? Because my virtue is so low that soldiers are gonna start abandoning me. Okay, Sarge? I need more squad members. And they can't be too expensive. There's an impoverished knight here. Do I bother to try to get the impoverished knight, or is he just gonna run off because he doesn't like my virtue? A highwayman probably doesn't give a crap about my virtue, I'm thinking. And peasants are probably less likely to be concerned with my virtue. We'll grab this peasant. This highwayman. Well, none of these guys are going to be any good now. He's at least got a sword. Or I meant to shield, actually, right? Yeah, that's what I meant. Alright, we need to get one of these guys to survive 3 battles so we can finish the other quest. How bad is it looking? -10 virtue. As you ponder the assignment received from Alyssa, memories of your visit to Chippenham come to mind. The Marquis's residence is a medium-sized castle, fortified but still not mighty enough to be truly impregnable citadel. Taking it by storm seems like a doable task, especially in case of defenders, small number, low competence, but otherwise, if the castle suddenly turns out to be well defended, a lightning assault would be out of the question. You delve deeper into your memory and recall a crossbowman on the wall and towers, as well as some generally capable-looking guards at the gates. After some estimation, you figure that with about 50 men with experience in siege warfare under your command, such defense could be overcome with a swift frontal assault. Another option that occurs to you last is covert infiltration. If you can find someone among the inhabitants of the castle would be willing to open the side gate under the cover of darkness and let you in, the matter could be solved with a very small force. The only difficulty lies in finding this most mysterious resident of Chippenham, who may have an axe to grind with Duncan. However, no matter what option you choose, as long as Windsor is controlled by Canterbury's men, withdrawing troops from under its walls, even a very small number, is a terrible idea. So before you storm this fortress, you'll have to deal with the other one first. Quest update, overthrow. Okay. Guess we're off to Windsor. I need to beat Windsor all on my own, and I believe Windsor still has Goliath up on its walls, and he's not going to be easy to mess with. You arrive at the field camp beneath the walls of Windsor. Alright, we're going to assault the town with my men. And there's Goliath indeed. Okay. I can't mess around with him too much. First we take out the crossbowmen. one peasant dead already. Good, we. I'm not getting any virtue from this fight. And my retinue here is dying as quickly, too quickly. I need to do something about Goliaths. Come on. Shit. This is the highwayman. And he's dead in one shot. Okay, all my guys are dead. How am I supposed to get one to live through a battle at this stage of the game? It's gonna be fucking impossible. I can't do too much resting either, or this, the game forces you to have to give up or run away. Like, I had Goliath. The first time I ever did this fight, I had Goliath, like, next to dead. I had him double injured and on a frog hair of health, and I was killing the guys in this slot, and then the game decided that I decided it was time to run away. And Goliath was left alive, and I was just totally ticked. So with that being said, at some point I'm going to have to deal with Goliath before he deals with me, evidently. Is that all I really have? I need to restock my consumables. Alright. I don't exactly have armor damaging equipment here. Oh, I have break armor. What am I talking about? Honestly, I think it's easiest to go through the limbs. I'd rather have someone that's not a crossbowman here backing up Goliath because of that. Okay, not a crossbowman. Hopefully. Yeah, no crossbow. Good. What is his weapon skill? High-ish. Limb armor's down to 9. Okay, let's do one more. Hopefully we hit the limbs. We did. Okay, he's essentially got no armor on his limbs now. And go to defensive stance, go to respite. I need you to swing at me, please. Stop trying to feint me and swing. Unbelievable. What? This guy hit me while I'm in defensive stance with his... I call bullshit. Okay. Tourniquet. Antidote. Might as well have the last wine bottle. I think Goliath didn't swing. I'm risking the entire run right now. Yeah, but the other thing is, if I don't break through this castle on this first attack, this castle becomes annoying. I need you to swing. Thank you. Attack, Goliath, overhead strike, limbs. Arm muscle cut. Beautiful. Weapon skill only reduced by 1. I'm growing tired. Fuck. You kidding me? Oh, and I just died. I just died. Well, guys. I did sorry. Looks like this is where this one ends. I was not expecting to die to Goliath. I've noticed I'm getting hit by things I never used to get hit by. The game is definitely harder than it used to be. Is that a good thing? Possibly it is. I mean, I suppose it makes it more replayable for people with high-level accounts like I have. At the same time, it just makes it far harder for people coming into this game who are fresh, if you will. But I suppose they will knock their heads against the wall like I did for a long time to get their account up, like all the rest of us likely did. So it's either they're going to be willing to put in the effort to get their account level up strong enough to be able to contend with this stuff or not. And probably this game is meant for the people who are willing to do that. So, sorry guys, looks like I died here. Will I start a season 3? Maybe. I do feel like I need a little bit of a break from Headsville Roll for a couple of weeks, just to get fresh. I love this game, but too much Headsville Roll constantly is probably too much Headsville Roll. So be sure I will come back to this game soon enough. Maybe a week break just to get fresh. Anyway, I'm James Johnson, aka Software Played. This has been the end of this season of Headsville Roll. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If so, please smash that like button. Consider subscribing. And until the next time, all, peace. I suppose I'll let you guys see what has happened to the account before I finish the video. Also, if I'm honest, I call my account a high-level account. There's accounts out there that are way higher than what I'm at, like, 2,000, 3,000 level stuff. I'm just coming up on my first level 1,000. So I guess my account is probably more of an intermediate account and extremely high level. But at some point, a high level account is just a high level account. At some point, you're just going to be able to, max out all your stats at the beginning and jump in and have tons of money as well. I haven't reached the point to where I can just max everything out and have tons of money, but I'm certainly rapidly approaching that state. And this is where the video is actually going to end. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Peace.